Okay, first thing with any of these, we're going to get as much information off of the graphing calculator as we can. So, first things first, make sure you type it in correctly. Nothing worse than doing a whole problem and then going, oh crap, I didn't type it in right. So, 3x to the third minus 9x plus 1. Okay. I'm going to use the picture right now to give me an approximate idea of what this should look like at the end. I'm not just going to graph this right now and scribble. I'm not even, when I use my table here, which I'm always going to do because I want to be accurate, any points you can find that you can graph on your graph right away, I would do it. Now sometimes you may get bonuses out of this, which you'll see here momentarily. But all I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and plot the -2, -5, the -1, 7, the 0, 1, the 1, -5, and the 2, 7, because those are the only ones that I see in the chart that are actually going to fit on my graph, since I don't think 55 and -53 will. Now I still do not want to connect the dots yet. Do not connect the dots until we have all of our information here, because we want our graph to be as accurate as it humanly can be. So once I get here, I'm going to bring my picture back up for a minute because I just want to see how this is all going. Kind of swing this over here. We'll fit it all in yet. So now I'm going to go looking for all of this stuff. Now the cool thing is all this stuff can all come from one main place. I'm going to use second and trace to get the menu that I want. And we've done this before. Second and trace gets me to the calculate menu. So this is where I'm going to start whenever I'm trying to find any of my information from, because everything I need is right here. The only question is going to be, which one of the buttons am I hitting? If I want an X-intercept, which has another name, 0, I will be picking choice number 2 when I'm looking for those. When I'm looking for a maximum, I will be picking choice number 4. And when I want minimums, I will be picking choice number 3. But for right now, I want to find my zeros. I want to find my X-intercepts. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go down to 0 here. I'm going to hit enter. And I notice, I see that there's 1, 2, 3 places that my graph crosses the x-axis. So I'm going to be finding 3 x-intercepts. So to do this, I'm going to take my little cursor guy. And I always want to go from left to right when I'm doing this. The left and right arrows.
Thank you.
Yep. And so my first goal is going to be, that's the first x-intercept I'm going to try to trap in. So what I always do, instead of playing this left-bound, right-bound game, because it's kind of hard to tell what's to the left to that point and what's to the right and all this. So I say, if I start at the very left of my graph, my first point, I'm going to start below the x-axis. Notice my y value is negative. I'm going to hit enter once. Anywhere below the y-axis is fine. And then I'm going to hit the right arrow until I'm somewhere above the x-axis. It doesn't matter where. Either of those spots that I'm going back and forth between would work fine. Because what I'm doing is I'm trapping this intercept in. So once I get my second point above, I'm going to hit enter once. It says guess. Just hit enter again. You don't really have to guess. And it'll tell me where that 0 is. So this one's at -1.79. And I'd go put a dot on my x-axis at -1.79, right about here somewhere. And that's how I'm going to do it for all of these.
Like every time it crosses like the X?
Yeah, every time it's crossing the x-axis, I need to do my second trace, go down to 0, hit enter, and then I'm just going to keep working my way over. Now be careful on the second one. As I'm coming in, notice I'm coming in from the top this time. If I'm coming in from the top, my first enter needs to be on top of the x-axis. And then my second enter, my right bound, will be somewhere below down here. So if you're coming in from underneath, it's bottom then top. you're coming in from the top, you start with the top, and then I just hit enter.
Okay, I don't know what I just did, but I still got the same answers.
Okay.
But I didn't do that. It's just like move my arrows, and the thing is right on it.
Sometimes by just tracing, you can get fortunate and happen to hit right on a value. That can happen sometimes. But it's one of those that it's kind of a hit or miss. Whereas if you're using the actual second trace and going to your 0, you'll hit right on every single time. So like here, notice I'm coming in from the bottom. So my first enter is going to be below. It's going to be down here somewhere. And then I just go above it somewhere. Doesn't matter where. And I hit enter twice. And some of you, and we've talked about this a couple of times, might be looking at that E and go, well, wait a minute, that doesn't say 0, it says 1E negative 12. What's up with that? Anytime you see E, that's like scientific notation. So what that really would be, if I were to speak that number out, would be point, I want to make sure I get this right, point 0.00000000001. That's pretty close to 0. So we call it 0. So we go ahead and we just plot that. So let me get my other one, my 0.11 and my 1.67 here. So you're like, dang, there's a lot of dots there. Right, because we're going to be really, really accurate with this once we finish off a couple more last second things here. So max and min, remember, my maximum is when there's like a hill. Okay, it's like the top of my hill. And a minimum is like a valley, and I'm at the very bottom of it. So when I'm doing these, I'm still going to go back to my second trace, back to my calculate menu. But like, for instance, this first one, I'm looking for the max. So I'm going to go down to 4, and I'm going to hit enter. So remember, my max is this guy up here. So I'm going to come all the way back over to the left here. Now, it's a little different this time because I'm trying to trap this point up here. So any place to the left, any place you see my little blinky guy going back and forth here is fine to use as your left bound because all these points are to the left of that. So I'll hit enter once. And then to the right, I just want to make sure I'm to the right somewhere. So again, anywhere in here is fine. I'll hit my enter.
It says quit, it says error.
Okay, now here's what can be happening to you if you're getting an error message. Let me do that exact same one again, and we'll chat. Okay, so if I go back to my maximum, my first point when I hit enter for the left bound, it has to be somewhere over here to the left of that. And make sure also you hit maximum. Because if you hit minimum and do this, it'll give you an error message. So anywhere to the left, hit enter. Somewhere to the right, hit enter twice, and you should get your maximum. Yep, and that'd be the same as what I've got. If you've got a bunch of zeros, we're just rounding anyway. So negative 1.7, you're like, I already got that point. And that will happen sometimes.
Is your like calculator set to round or something?
No, it just does sometimes, depending on what values you picked. But because before when I did it the first time, it said like 1.000 something. That's okay.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Negative 0.99.
Yes, and that would still round, it'd still round to 1. Yeah, sometimes you may get values, but if you rounded it and it would still come up to the same whole number, that's still okay.
So we can use any points in either side?
Yeah, as long as you're, and I'll do it again when we're doing the minimum here. As long as when I'm picking these, like for instance here, I'm trying to find this point down here at the bottom. So anywhere to the left here, so anywhere along this slanted line, I could use, and I'm going to get to the same answer at the end. So like even if I poked it way up here, that'd be okay. But then as long as I get around that curve and I'm somewhere over here to the right of that minimum, when I hit my enter twice, I'll still end up there. Now some of you may get it to actually say,
Should be above the X.
nope, the above and below is only on my zeros. Here it's strictly on left and right. So some of you here may have, it may literally say 1. But if I'm rounding 0.999, that's pretty close to 1. Or you may get like negative 4.999999999 something, okay? Close enough, it's negative 5, okay? And I already have that point right here. So at this point, no pun intended, I'm ready to go ahead and sketch this. So I'm going to kind of look at the picture, and I'll be like, okay, so I'm drawing, okay, now I'm coming back down, and I'm kind of watching the picture too, because I want to be accurate. Oh, why did I use purple? That's okay. So I've got this sketch of my graph, but there's one last part, and some of you are like, well, wait a minute. We haven't even used the colored pencils yet. That's what we're going to do now. This increasing and decreasing thing that we have here. Here's the two things with that you've got to remember, and it's going to take a little practice. When we're doing this, we work from left to right every time, and we are watching x values, not y, only x. That's hence why we're doing it from left to right. Because when you go left to right, you're looking at the x values point of view. So here's how this works with the coloring game. When I start with my graph at its leftmost point, and I can't go because it goes forever down, it's increasing in value because as I move to the right, it's going up. So with one of your colored pencils, follow your line up, make your line thick enough that you can see it until you get to that first maximum. Because once I hit that maximum, you notice my graph turns and starts to go down. Well, it's increasing until it gets there. Once it gets there, it starts to decrease. I'm going to use my other color to signify that it's decreasing in value. But then after a while, I notice, I get to the bottom, it starts to go back up again. So when it's increasing, I'm going to go back to my first color and take it up to the top. So you're like, well, wait a minute. So it's increasing, and then it's decreasing, and then it's increasing. Yes?
So use the same color for increasing?
Use the same color for increasing, use the same color for decreasing. Because then I can look at this and say, okay, so what's this all mean? We're going to use interval notation to describe what intervals this is increasing or decreasing. So remember, we're talking in regards to x. So this is going to keep expanding out forever and ever. So I'm always going to start with negative infinity because this is going to keep going to the left and left and left forever and ever. But then as I'm going to the right, remember, we're looking at x values. I get to this first maximum where it starts to change direction. What's my x value right here? Negative 1. Okay. So from negative infinity to negative 1, I'm increasing in value because I'm looking from left to right. Once I get there, I start to decrease. So from that very same point, negative 1, I start to decrease. And I keep decreasing until I get to here. What's my x value here? 1. It's the x value of my minimum, so I can get it from the point 2. And then it stops. You're like, okay. But then you're like, crap, it starts increasing again. What do I do?
U.
Make a U. I start at the exact same point, 1. And I start heading out forever to infinity. And I'm done. I've explained using interval notation where my graph is increasing in value and where it's decreasing. But the big thing here again is it's x values. And when you're going up, you want to use the y. You want to use 7. You want to use negative 5. Don't do it. Okay? It's always going to be x values. And this is like anything else. You've got to get used to it. But I want to show you my cool thing that I found today. So some of you are like, okay, I don't have a graphing calculator at home, that crazy download thing you do. I don't want to have to download something. Okay, I have an idea. This, and I'll put the website up when we get done here at the end, but I also already have it on my website on the front page. This graphing calculator, this is the exact same problem we just got done with. Notice this. check this out. I'm looking for my zeros. Oh. Negative 1.79. That would be that value rounded. So you just have to hover. You don't even have to trap.
So what are we going to do when a test comes?
You still need to know how to use the calculator. I'm just saying for those of you that haven't downloaded at home or don't want to or something, this is an option. But you still need to know how, because yeah, we're not doing this test in like the computer lab where you're going to bring up Desmos and go, ooh, this is cool. But you can find your X-intercepts this way, and it'll even do your, oops.
This is the one that has the app?
This is downloadable to like a tablet or something like that. It's in the Google store. So, or you can just find it online and just use it in the form that it's at. So, but like I said, I'll put this up at the end, but it lets you see all of these things. So it's kind of nice in that way.
What's one quick phone?
I'll get to that one in a minute, because that one I haven't gotten to play with as much, but I'll show you where it is and how to get at it, because it's supposedly it's the best one out there. We'll see. It's going to be dangerous. I'm going to be playing on my iPhone with it tonight, and my wife, I'm going to make her play with it on her Android, and she's going to hate it because she doesn't like all this stuff, but that's okay. She can take one for the team. So, what we're going to do, I can't believe I just said that online. All right. Luckily, she doesn't watch these videos, so I'm not going to get in trouble. So, what we're going to do next is we're going to play with this some more, because we also want to be good at this on the calculators in here. So, whenever we have a fraction, make sure it's in parentheses, because otherwise our answer will get all messed up. Okay, so let's take a peek here at what this guy is going to look like. Hey, it's the McDonald's arches. Okay, so what we're going to do is we notice a few things right away. I see 1, 2, 3. Okay, I see my 3 X-intercepts here, and I see I'm going to have 2 maxes, and I have a min. So, just like we did before, let's use the chart to get us some values to start with here, and see if that helps us out at all. So, negative 3, negative 2.25, negative 2, 4, negative 1, 1.75, 0, 0. Hey, there's one of my X-intercepts. I don't even have to find one of them. 1, 1.75, 2, 4, 3, negative 2.25. Okay. And those, let me make sure there's no others that are going to help me. Oh, no. Not that way. And not that way. Okay. So I've got the points that I can use from my chart right now. But I still need to find my other 2 intercepts, because this is the only one I found so far. So second, trace. And here we go again. Again, my X-intercepts are my zeros. I use number 2. So I go down to 2.
Why do you have 0, comma?
Because I found one of my intercepts already when I was in my chart. So this is one I don't have to go find later, because I found it already. So when I work from left to right, notice where I'm starting. I'm below the x-axis. So I do 1 click below. I do 1 click somewhere above. Well, 2, because I have to do my guess. And I'll get one of my zeros at negative 2.83. Or if you go to negative 2.8, that's fine. I'm not going to complain. So I'll get that dot put in there. Then, let's see. I got one more over here on the right. So second trace and 0. And I'll move my little cursor guy along here. Now notice this time, my first click is going to be above the axis because I'm coming in from the top. So I'll click once above. Get my little cursor guy below here somewhere. Click once for that, and once for my guess that I am not going to make. Oh, positive 2.83. Get that dot in there. That's a whole heaping lot of dots, but I can see the M coming out. Okay, 2 maxes, 1 min. And again, I'm close to making an assumption on what the maxes and the mins are going to be, but I'm not quite comfortable doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and find them. So max, I'm moving all the way back over here to the left. And again, with your maxes and mins, the axis doesn't matter anymore. It just means somewhere over here to the left, hit enter somewhere. And then get to the right of your little hill or your little bump there. Somewhere, doesn't matter, just in here somewhere. And hit enter twice. And then again, just place them around in here. So like,
You're going too fast.
okay, I will slow my roll.
Thank you. How did you find the max again?
I do second, trace,
Mm-hmm.
and I go down to max.
Yeah.
And whenever I'm trying to find a maximum or a minimum, I'm just going to try to trap it in the middle here. So anywhere along the left side over here, I can use and hit enter, above or below the axis, it doesn't matter. And then I need to pick some spot that's over here on the right side. Again, it doesn't matter where. And once I do that, I hit enter twice, and I should get there. Second, trace, and then number 4.
You can just press forward.
Yeah, you can just press
Oh,
4.
okay.
Uh-huh. And then I just, somewhere to the left of that point, since that's the point I'm looking for, somewhere to the left of it, I'm going to hit enter once. Then I'm going to move my cursor somewhere to the right, so somewhere on this side of my slant. Doesn't matter where. And I'm going to hit enter 2 times over there. And some of you that have been watching are like, wow, it changed from like negative 1.99999 to negative 2.000. But again, it's all the same.
We have that point already.
Right, and I'm going to go do the other one right now. Because I see there's one more hill over there, so I'm going to go get that guy. So here, okay, anywhere over here to the left, doesn't matter. Anywhere in here. 1 enter.
Yes. It
Then-
doesn't matter. Press maximum again. It doesn't matter if you press maximum. Like,
Yeah,
if you go
because-
back to trace,
He did max. because
Yeah.
you Go back to the second.
I did max again because I'm looking for another maximum over here. This is another maximum. I'm going to do the minimum in a minute.
so you're gonna do both of them.
I'm going to do, yeah, you got to have both of them.
Oh,
So anywhere here to the right,
see.
2 enters. So I've got one at positive 2 and 4. And you're like, I already got that point. That's okay. That won't happen every time that some point from your chart happens to be the max or min. That won't happen every time. So we got to find it. You didn't get that. Did you get something close on rounding?
No, like my X is like 2.978 something. My Y is like negative.
Bring your calculator up here for a second. While we're looking for our min, I will start working you guys on min while I'm looking for this interesting situation that we must have here. Wait, oh, you haven't hit enter for your guess yet, though. Yeah, you've got to hit enter twice when you get onto that right side, and then it'll show up. So then our minimum down here, I'm pretty sure it's 0, 0, but I'm going to make sure. So again, I want to trap this in. So any spot to the left, right here, I can hit enter once. And then I'll move my cursor guy to the right here. Anywhere along here. Doesn't matter. Anywhere in here. Bless you. 2 enters. And again, remember when we said before, if we see E, E just means 0. So my minimum is at 0, 0. I already have a point there.
Yeah, I think it's I pressed it twice this time.
Does it say guess right now?
No, it says minimum.
And what's it? So at this point,
There's an E. You just have E = 0. So you E here. And mine says the same thing. And yours says- Okay. It says the same thing.
and I get my M.
How'd you get 0 though?
Because E equals 0.
Anything to the E is just like scientific notation. It just means it's a bunch of zeros in there. So then I'm ready now to go into my color game. So again, you always start at the left. And you go until, you get to a maximum or a minimum. Like there, I got to a max. Then I change my colors. And I go till I hit another turning point, another max or a min. And I change colors. And I'm just going to keep changing colors. So this particular one looks like I have 2 that are increasing and 2 that are decreasing. So once you get your coloring done, we're going to want to take a peek. Say, okay, it looks like we're starting with increasing. So since we start from left to right and we start with increasing, we're starting at negative infinity. We're coming along, we're coming along, we're coming along. There's my first maximum, negative 2. That x-intercept, maximum. And then I start up with my decreasing. I'm like, okay, I'm starting at that negative 2 that I just stopped at.
0.
I'm coming down until I hit my minimum, which in this case is 0. Lock that up. And then we start up again right from that same point. So I stopped at 0, start at 0. Up until I hit my next max. And again, don't use the 4. Good. It's 2 because it's the x value. And then we start up again at 2. And remember, it's x value. We're going forever to the right, which is positive infinity.
What about down or negative?
X values. We're not going down, we're going right. That's the thing, and that's the tricky part, because I thought the same thing the first time I did this morning. I was like, oh, it's oh, no, it's not. Because again, it's all X values. So when I'm moving to the right, right is positive infinity. Okay, left is negative infinity. Don't get sucked into that Y trap and think, ooh, it opens down, it's negative. No, 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 no. So as long as you're careful with some of that stuff.
How we did when we did the as x to like infinity.
But that was, we were talking about Y values when we were doing end behavior, when we were doing as x approaches this, then f of x approaches this. We were talking about x and y then. These are strictly x values we're talking about. But that's good. That's a good comparison to make it to. One more normal one. It's like normal. Uh-oh. All right. X to the 5th minus 5x cubed plus 4x. Make sure we're good. Looks good to me. Yay. Now, a couple of things I notice. 2 maximums, 2 minimums, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 x-intercepts. Now, before you panic and go, this is going to take me an hour to do, let's bring up the chart and see what happens. Nice. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. All 5 of my x-intercepts I can get from the chart. I don't have to go back and calculate them now. I can just put dots on all 5 of those. Now I notice I'm not going to get any other points though out of this, because I notice at negative 3 and 3 it's like a negative 120 and 120. That's not going to fit. But I see there are some other values, so I do have to figure out my maxes and my mins, but that's going to help me actually make the graph, because right now that wouldn't tell me much. So let's do maxes first, and we said there's 2 of them. Okay, so my first max is over here to the left. Now remember, with maximum and minimum, I don't care about the x-axis. I just want to be on the left side of this point right here. So right there, that's all good. So 1 enter over here somewhere to the left. Now again, my second one is over here somewhere to the right. doesn't matter as long as it's right in here somewhere. 2 enters, 1 to get the right bound gone and 1 for the guess. So my max, my first one looks like negative 1.64, 3.63. And I'll actually go ahead and plot that. Now, if some of you literally want to work left to right and you want to do the minimum next, you can, but I tend to get mixed up when I do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do both maximums right away. So I'm trying to get this guy. So I'm looking and I'm like, okay, my little dotted guy, my little cursor, he's to the left here. So I hit my enter once. Now I'll move to the right. And anywhere in this area that I'm going back and forth in is fine. You could pick any of those and it'll work. But on that second one, you hit enter once for the bound and once for the guess. So I've got 0.54, 1.42. Oops, move the calculator. Oh, let me move this. There we go. 1.42, right about there. So I'm going to do the same type of process with my 2 minimums now. This guy here and this guy here. Then we'll be ready to go. So minimum. This is now my goal. So anywhere in here with my cursor would be fine. So where it's at now is good. Anywhere here to the right. It's a little trickier to see with the y-axis there, but anywhere in here is okay. Once for the bound, once for the guess. And we've got negative 0.54, negative 1.42. Huh, kind of interesting. It's just like the negative opposite of my maxes. And one last time. One last minimum. Anywhere in here works. A single enter. Anywhere along the right side of that point works. Even up here above the axis is fine. Once for my bound. And once for my guess. And I get my last dot. So finally, I'm ready to actually graph this sucker. So I start checking out my dots here, and I'm like, okay. So up here and down. Oops, I didn't put my other one in, did I? Silly man. There we go. And up and down and up again. So I just kind of keep following all the dots. And it looks pretty similar to what I had over there. So once I have that set, I'm like, all right, one last time with this. I'm going to start at the left. Use whatever your increasing color is and increase. And then it changes direction and decreases. And it changes direction and increases. And then it changes and decreases. I wish it would make up its mind. And then it changes its mind and increases. So you're like, dang, 3 increases this time. Got this. Don't need no calculator anymore. So, okay. So I get here and I say, okay, let's see. Increasing. Negative infinity, because again, this is going to keep going to the left forever. Not down, but left. So I come up. What's my x value of my first maximum?
1.64.
Okay, so negative 1.64. That's why we had to find it. So you're like, okay, So that means the other one starts there then, which is true, and goes down to my first minimum. And you start to see why it's good to go left to right, because they're all going to line up for me. So this is at negative 0.54. You're like, well, then it starts to increase again. So I start here, and I start to go up until I get to my second maximum. Again, it's x values that I'm using. So positive 0.54 right here. So that's where I'm starting, because now I'm starting to head down. So once I get up here and I see that it's decreasing, I start at that same point, and I go down until I get to my second minimum, which is at 1.64. Again, because it's all about the x values. And then, yep, and finally we have one more u. We start at that 1.64, that x value, and go forever to infinity. Woohoo! So here's kind of our game plan of sorts. Game plan is going to be, when you come in tomorrow, there's going to be answers on the board. The key is going to be up front. I'm going to try and have a video set up with a couple more of these in case they're needed for anything. They're probably going to be off of the worksheet that you're doing tomorrow. But if you need some time, you can. But do something with this tonight, because otherwise I'm not going to feel bad. You go, I don't have anything done. I'm like, people, there's like 2, 4, 6, like 9 problems. This is not impossible.
I just have a question. How about effective?
Yes, I still have one left here. Now, for those, no, I have 2. But for those of you that are looking for things, on the front page of my website, the calculator that I showed you earlier is the first link here. And again, it's at Google Store for free too if you want to download it. Those of you that are more phone crazy, I haven't tried this yet. I'm trying it tonight. I found another website that has one that's for an Android phone and one that's for an iPhone. I haven't tried them myself yet. I'm going to tonight, but there is an option if that's something else that you're looking for. But for those of you that are just trying to find something right away, that is the calculator that I had up earlier. So just something to ponder, something to think about. I will be here after